Okay, there's a few things I want to run over again and show you in Adobe Audition regarding multitrack mixing. Alright, so the first thing is I want to run over a few more things. So the first thing is, one thing I didn't show last time is how you get the transport window up on the mix page. So on the mix page, normally you wouldn't see these transport controls, play, stop, rewind, record. So if you want to work on this page and you need to play your audio, you'll need those up. So first of all, if you go down to transport and tick transport, you will get this window with the transport controls in them. Okay. Back to our session. This is a session similar to what we had in the previous video. So we have a drum track or a bed track. We have a vocal track here with me counting. And we have a stereo track here with me saying the alphabet. It doesn't have to be stereo, but I just thought I'd put it in there to show you that the drum track was stereo and the second vocal track is also stereo. Okay. If we go to the mixer page, we can now play and everything we will see the levels and we can make adjustment. The problem is that we'll play to the end of the session and then just play silence forever. So what we want to do is go back to the mix page and take one of the files, and usually the bed track is the best one to do, and loop it. So we just want that to loop, which means when the cursor gets to the end, it will just go back to the beginning. You don't have to keep coming back to this page and resetting the cursor at the beginning of the track. D. So there we go. It's just looping. All right, so now we've got this in loop. We can go to the mix page and we can work on the mix. Okay, so here again, it's very simple. We can just adjust the levels to what we think is the best balance. And 2, B, 3, C, okay, 4, D. Okay, so that's how we like it. So we're going back to here and we're going to mix down or bounce out. In other software it's called bounce out, but in this one it's actually called mix session to new file. Okay. So I'll just run over this again. This is going to export the entire mix that you just did. So all the tracks mixed together to a stereo file. It happens very quickly. It happens in offline mode, so you don't hear it, it just does it. Okay, so here's our whole mix. Okay, but what we need to do is save it. We're going to save it. This time I'm not going to save it as an MP3, I'm just going to save it as a WAV file. So we were already on WAV, but we're just going to check that this is going to go to where we want it to go, and it's not. We want it to go to that folder. And this is the full mix, so this is called Comp Mixdown 1. And it's full resolution, 44.1, 24-bit. Okay, so we've got our mix, but maybe the person who you're collaborating with just wants your part back. So they have given you a part, you've arranged and composed a part to go along with it, and you need to give it back to them for them to have a listen or for them to mix in their track. Whoever's composition it is, they might want it back. So anyway, if we go back to multitrack mode, now let's say they have given you this drum loop. That's their arrangement of the drums they want, and they've asked you to put a vocal track on, and this is the vocal track that you want to send back to them. So in this stage, we're just going to export that track. Okay, so that's our plan. We're going to edit that. We're going to export that track. What we might want to do is just trim it up a little bit. So it's always good if the track's the same length as the original bed track. So we can actually get this cursor here and put it right on the end of the track and just trim it back So it's now the same length as the drum track. Okay. The other thing we can do in Audition is to do a bit of neatening up of the file. So if we go up to this top corner here, we have the fade, and all that involves is and that's just put a little fade, so the track doesn't end. If there was a click in there, the end's nice and neatly. It just fades out any noise that might be on the end. Also, up the front here, we can do the same thing. We can just put a fade in the front so there's no click or noise, and if there is, it'll just come in very slowly and we won't notice it so much. So this is the track that we're working on, and we're going to export just this track. So you can highlight any track just by pressing on it. So what we're doing is vocal 1, we're going to export, we're going to send it back to the person who created the first bed track. So again, we go to multitrack, we go Mixdown, selected clips. This is just the selected clip that we have. So what will happen, we'll do that, it'll do it offline so we won't hear it. Okay, that is our track, which is just me counting to 4. Again, we want to save this. Say, my part to your song 1. It's always best to give your file names a number because there might be a second part or a second version that you might want to send. So my part to your song 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Okay, we're going to keep it at full resolution and we're going to click out of it. Okay, so that's how you just export one single part from yours thing. If your part involves 2 parts, you could either export them both and give them to them, or you could mix those together. And the way you would do that is to just mute the original track. Up here we've got mute and solo, so mute means it won't play it at all. Solo means that it will just play that track. So we mute the original track, and then we could bounce out the mix down without the bed track in there. So that's 2 ways of doing it. You can do the whole mix and do a mix of it, which you might want to send to them to see if they like it. And if they want the just the individual parts, then you can go and select the track, go up here and mix down to a new file the selected clip. And we just did it again, but we don't need to do that. All right, so that's a way. Just to, again, let's just look at that. Let's just take this track and trim it. Okay, so that's trimming up the tracks. That's mixing them down completely or exporting an individual track. Thanks.